Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the French Tier 9 WheelieBoi light tank, the EBR 90. Now this is my least favourite light tank in this line. And that's because it's just got a few features that I feel are underwhelming, because I mean, it's one of those things. I went from the Lynx, which I really enjoyed. I'd say I don't think the Lynx was as good as the French Tier 8 Premium, but I just clicked with it. The 240 Alpha, everything about the tank, I just seemed to click with it. This tank, I didn't. I didn't enjoy it, really, because it was a large target. Sure, it goes quicker, and it's got better camo and slightly better view range than the Tier 8. But there was just something about it I just didn't enjoy, because, I don't know, for me, the gun was underwhelming. The gun was just underwhelming to me, because you still got 240 Alpha. You got 240 Alpha, but a tier up. You only gain, like, I think it was 3 pen when it's fully upgraded over the stock gun, over the Lynx's gun. And on the premium, you got 230 pen instead of, I think, 223. Yeah. The gun itself, if it was 320 Alpha, it might have been better and I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. But the fact that you still have the same Alpha as the tier below you just made it a little bit annoying. The fact that you get 6 degrees of gun suppression instead of 8 like you do on the Lynx was just a little bit underwhelming in itself as well. Is it a better active scout than the Lynx? Yes, because it goes quicker. But it still has the weakness that it only has 330 meters view range, as opposed to every other light tank, most at the tier, which have like 390 to 400. You know, so you get out spot a lot. You do have really good camo, which is 0.38 compared to the Lynx's 0.32, I think it was. Yeah, so 0.38 camo is absolutely fantastic, and that is something that you're going to have to use to your strength, and you're going to see it in these replays as well. If you use the camo to your strengths and just keep trying to pummel people with the gun, even though the gun's underwhelming, you can still have some decent games. So what do I run as a crew on this tank? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, Snapshot, Run and Gun, and Steady Aim. I run the same perks as I do on all the wheelies. Make the guns as good as possible, especially when you're firing on the move and with turning the turret and stuff like that. And then make the camo, which is making the most of the camo generally. Now, this tank, I do run a different equipment setup to what I've run on every other light tank, and every other WheelieBoi anyway. And it's pretty much the only one I actually run this setup, and that is a rammer, camo net, and optics. Now, I actually dropped the vents for the rammer because the gun was doing my head in, because it was still, I don't know what it was, it's less accurate than the Lynx, but it hit less shots for me. It was just so frustrating, and the fact that the reload was so long for 240 at tier 9, right, that's the thing, because it reloads, I think, 0.4 of a second faster than the Lynx. But you're at tier 9, and 240 Alpha at tier 9 is just underwhelming. It really, really is. I mean, obviously, it's not a damage dealer, right? It's not supposed to be a damage dealer. That's why it's got 240 Alpha at tier 9. It's supposed to be a scout. But when, like I say, most of the tanks as well are still doing, like, 320 plus, it just felt a little bit... I'd say it's just underwhelming. I think that's what this tank was to me. It was just underwhelming. And I just didn't enjoy it all that much. Like I say, you can still have good games with it if you just use the abilities that this tank has to its full capacity of strength, then you can do decent. Like I said, the camo is the big strength of the tank. And the fact that, as well, on this tank, and you've not had it since tier 6 in the tech tree, that is, we're not counting the premium here, you can go backwards as fast as you can go forwards. Now, obviously, the tier 6 could do that, the tier 7 and 8 couldn't do that, and spoilers, the tier 10 can't do that either. So that is one thing that this tank has to its strength. If you're going one way, you can basically propel yourself straight forwards into a position and then just stop dead, run backwards as fast as possible as well. You can do all that, and that is another strength of the tank. So, we're on Steps, and I'd say Steps is quite possibly one of the best maps you can get for wheelies. There's a couple of them. Now, obviously, it's going to depend, because some people might not like Steps. I like Steps. It's a good map. I think Steps is a good map for these WheelieBois because it's so open and kind of flat, right? There's these big open spaces in the middle of the map where I can just run around, and I can use the camo and the spotting to try and spot up the enemy team and get shots in everywhere. And by doing this in this open map as well, there's little spaces like these rocks that I can get cover behind. There's foliage in the middle that I can again used to increase my camo, and I can keep harassing and pulling up and getting shots here and there and then just running away, and I don't have to worry about random little bumps and basically little ridges that make it so that as soon as I turn, for some reason I'll slide, or I randomly just come to a complete halt, which is really annoying. So for mobility reasons, this map is probably one of the best ones for the light tanks. It's just big, it's basically big open spaces that allow you to roam without much trouble. And that is a very nice thing for these tanks. So on steps, we ended up with this northeast spawn, and I basically marauded straight down to G8 and made the most of that position like I always do on this map from this spawn. It's a really strong position to take. You can get good shots out, good spots. And now we're down to... well, we're down on tanks at the minute, and this standard B's gone in on my concept, and I want to shut him down and try and save my concept here, because, well, we need every tank we can get. We're up to 3.3k damage, 1829 assistance, and we've shut down the thing that was in our base attacking it. Now, we know there's something along their defensive line at D23. It's probably that Object 430 version 2 that we saw earlier on, but I'm just going to try and light it up, see if I can spot it, which we do. It's a Carnarvon. Unfortunately, we missed because we took a chancy shot. That was never really going to hit, to be honest. I don't know why I took it. I should have waited for him to back him to a position I could shoot him underneath these train tracks like that. And we shut him down. So now, we've pulled it back, nearly. Well, we have pulled it back. We're now 6-5. It's now 6-5, which means we have pulled it back, which is good. We've got this 430 version 2 over here, which is going to be a pain. Because that is one thing as well, being a tier 9, right? Is that... I think it's 182 or 180, depending on the links at tier 8, is still fine. A lot of tanks have like 180 to 190 pen. You can make the most of it, and if you struggle, you can just load 223 pen, right? Whereas this gun has 185 pen on its AP again. At tier 9, there's so many tanks that you're going to struggle to pen with 185 pen at tier 9. As well as the fact that tier 9 sees tier 10 pretty much all the time. Add that to that fact, and you really do struggle with this penetration. Obviously, you've got really good heat round. Well, I say really good. You've got heat rounds with 230 pen. And as you can see, we slapped that shot into that lower plate of the 430 version 2 there. The heat rounds are pretty nice. But again, they still kind of struggle at tier 10. Because there's going to be a lot of tanks you can't pen with AP. So you load the heat, and you get flanking round them, and you get to the sides and stuff. And you still can't pen them because heat. And heat just gets absorbed by spaced armor and stuff like that. Take E100s, for example. You get round the side of an E100, you can't get to his rear. You can't really pen it in the front with the heat round. And you have to shoot it in the side. Unless you get the side of the turret, you're just going to bounce because it just gets absorbed by the spaced armor. It's a bit of a pain. So this 430 version 2 is a big problem. So I'm like, right, okay, while he's distracted, I'm going to YOLO past him and get a big shot into his side. We'll luckily get that in on the move. As you saw when we went in, we used the rapid mode to get the speed to get into that position. And as soon as we were coming around that corner, changed it into the cruise mode to get the better gun handling, slapped the shot in, and as soon as we fired that shell, straight into the rapid mode, zoom out of there. He's distracted again. The tank randomly slides because that's just what wheelie boys do when they go at these speeds for some reason. It's a big problem with the the EBR 105. Is that for some reason when you're at top speed and you turn a little bit too sharply, your tank just slides and you lose all momentum, and it really can kill you with doing that. But anyway, we shut down the Object 430 version 2. Now it's 4-on-3. We're still pretty close here. We've got 503 health. We can take at least one more hit from what's left on their team. We know where the 416 is. We know where the T10 is. They're up there in their base pretty much. And we want to try and get some shots into them. So I'm going to try and get into a flanking position to spot and get some shots. We end up spotting the T10, pop a shot on the move. Because it's one thing that these tanks are good at, just like every other tank in the game, is getting shots on the move. And if you can get those shots into weaker spots while you're driving along, they can be pretty helpful. Now we end up driving into a rock there, which is really unfortunate because that means the 416 ends up hitting us and putting us on 190 hit points. Which means we're going to get killed by everything that shoots at us now. And I've just got to be careful. So, the 416 has better camo than I do and better view range. Me, as a light tank, cannot outspot the 416. Because I just don't have the view range. I have 330... If I was in any other light tank, I could spot the 416, right? With the fully pimped out crew. But in this tank, I can't do it. There's just no way. So I had to wait for someone to go and spot him, and thankfully, the King Dragon managed it. Unfortunately, the King Dragon did get shut down, but we got rid of the 416, so that's a big problem out. Because these two this heavy tank, the T10, I can spot easily without truly getting spotted myself, because the camo is good on this tank. But obviously, with something like the 416, I was never going to spot it. He was always going to spot me, and I've got low health, so he could shut me down way before I'd even get anywhere near him. So I was trying to get the flanking shot on this T10, but I was actually reversing, and I just mucked up my steering, which meant that I crashed into the rock, into the scenery, and I just completely lost the element of surprise. Is what it is, bad driving, and sometimes what happens when you are driving this tank, when you can go forward as quickly as you can go backwards, is that you'll drive backwards because you can do that, and you think, well, I can just pull forwards and get away quickly, but you can just get confused and muck up your driving. It happens. But it is what it is. We managed to flank round. He gets distracted with the medium tank. The medium tank gets a shot into him. We shut down the T10, and we finish the game with the victory. We come top on our team with 6 kills, 4.8k damage, 2.2k assist, nearly 2.3. High caliber, top gun, first class. 1985 base XP. 1985 base XP is usually good enough for an ace tanker, in most tanks. But obviously, well, when I played these games, most people that had the I think there was only like 300 people had the tank, and most of those will probably be good players, which is usually the way when you get a brand new tank line. So we finished that game with a nice total for the tank, and like I say, steps, it's a good map for the wheelie boys because there's big open spaces, the big flat open spaces where you don't have to worry as much about crashing into terrain, and you know, there's big open spaces where you can just sort of keep manoeuvring. You can turn sharply without having to worry about too much, and you can use the camo and mobility of the tank to great effect. And another one for that is Erlenberg, and it's a good map for being able to use your camo again, use your mobility, because there's big, wide open spaces. Now, there's a big problem with the EBR 90, and it's the same on the EBR 105. When I turned there, because I was in the speed mode, and I could go 75 kilometers an hour, my tank, as soon as I made the little turn, I wanted to gradually turn into that area, but as soon as I made the turn, the tank just slid. And that meant I lost all momentum and speed, and that's something you've got to be careful of when you're using the rapid mode and using the absolute top speed you can get on this tank. And it's actually the reason, now I know people might point it out that I'm not running a traction system or I think it's the powertrain you can use on the wheelies. It's because I don't want the extra top speed, because there's too many times where this tank, where the extra top speed actually screws you up, because you turn a little bit too sharply and the tank just slides out. You lose all speed, and if you're spotted, that's deadly, because, well, the tanks will just shoot you and you end up losing most of your health. It's a bit of a pain. So that's why I don't run the powertrain, because of the actual problem with the sliding, and I slide far too often, because I'm bad at driving. It is what it is. So we've come up to this little hill over here. We've loaded the HE because, like on every other tank or every other WheelieBoi, you get 75 HE pen. And that is great for dealing with light tanks. And like I say, because you've got 240 alpha, because you've got pretty bad DPM, load the HE rounds and use and abuse them against light tanks, because you can get so much damage out of them. And not just light tanks, also tanks obviously like Balsigs and Waffle Panzer 4s, E100s, well, Waffle E100s, that is. Stuff like that to make the most out of the damage you can get. Because you see, you hit stuff like the EBR 105 there, 350 damage. That's a hell of a lot more than hitting him for 240. We've got this WZ 132, sorry, in front of us. We unfortunately missed the first shell, but I want to get rid of these light tanks, so I'm just focusing them down. That's why I'm sitting on top of this hill. We get a nice shot for 298 into the back of him there. Looking for the shot with the HE again, unfortunately miss him. He's just yellowing about, so he's making it perfect for me. I've just got to make sure I get the right leads in. So we damage him for 342, and like I say, because it's HE, it has higher module damage. It means when we hit him and pen them, we're doing some significant damage and we're doing module damage. So we ended up breaking his engine, which means he's burned his repair kit now, which is great for us. And it's exactly what we wanted. We're up to 1942 damage. We've still got 2 HE rounds. Something took a blind shot at us from the back, so I guessed it was the EBR 105, which it was, as we spotted him up. Or someone spotted him up. I don't know if I did. But he runs away, and we've still got the HE rounds for this Balsig, so we get a nice big HE round into the back of the Balsig. I'm going to manoeuvre myself into a position where I can hopefully get another shot into this guy. Now, like you see, this is where the camo is also fantastic, because he's spotted by other people. I can see stay out of detection range from him, and we get another big round into him and he doesn't spot us. We're up to 2.5k damage, 1153 assistance, and now we spot a Yag Tiger. It's like, hello, Mr. Yag Tiger. I pull back so he's way beyond my detection range, but unfortunately he still spots me, and it's like, okay, no, that was just unfortunate. I wasn't quite far enough away. We've still got the AP rounds in, we get unspotted, but I'm actually going to struggle with the front of this Yag Tiger with 185 AP. So we load the heat rounds because, like I say, the AP at the distance we're firing at is going to be a struggle for that guy. I was looking at the EBR 105 because, well, to be honest, in these wheelie boys, getting rid of the opposition light tanks is the best thing you can do, because that will allow you to operate without fear of getting outspotted and outdone by the other light tanks, which are just frankly better than you. And getting rid of our tier 10 brethren, well, obviously that's always a benefit. So I did use the rapid mode there to try and start going, but I switched back to cruise mode as soon as I spotted this E4, or as soon as this E4 got spotted, I should say. I'm way outside of that. The first round looked like it didn't hit, even though it was going straight at him, but I actually hit something blind. As I did then as well, I shot at the Barracuda and hit something else that it was sat next to, which is really fortunate. We're up to 4k damage, 1400 assistance. We know exactly where some of them are. They're over there on that little hill. So I loop around the cap as to not let them know I'm coming. And there we go. The Sentax gets spotted up. Like I say, the camo on this tank's fantastic. If you keep yourself at distance, you can fire at these guys with impunity without getting spotted. We get a little bit of assistance there from, I think, the artillery hitting that Sentax. We get a little bit more. Now that Sentax is a one-shot, and it's like, right, okay, I want to get this Sentax out of the game. Then the E4's coming back, and it's like, oh, hello, no. I get lucky that I don't crash into that 430U because I didn't spot him as I was coming round. And it's like, well, you know what? That E4's just fired. The Barracuda's fired one. I'm just going to shut down this Sentax. Nope. We ricochet off his turret. It's like, okay. Well, I've still got his whole side, right? I'm going to pen that. Nope. We ricochet off the back off his upper deck somehow. But he gets shut down by the Kampfpanzer, so it's not bad. We fired the third shell, and the RNG was against us as we ricochet off our tier 10 brethren there. And it's like, oh, come on, that thing's got no armour just like I don't. I accept if it hits his wheels and doesn't pen because, well, wheels. But I just ricocheted off the back of his turret, and it's like, oh, come on. So we get another shot on the move into the EBR 105. We get another shot again. He hits our wheels because his shot goes to the far left of our tank. And that means we've got not really much mobility or speed. Well, we've got the speed or traverse. But that helped us in the long run because that meant we were slow enough to get the shot into the EBR 105 to shut him down. Now there's only one tank left. It's this Leopard 1. We try and get a shot on the move into him, but he's obviously turned left, which means that a shot goes directly behind him. We actually aim the shot this time, get the big shot into the back of him, and he's running away from our friend, so I'm like, please let me get it, let me get it, let me get it. Auto aim the shot, bang, finish off the Leopard 1. And we finished that game with 2.2k damage, 2.2k assist damage, and 5.2k actual raw damage, and 3 kills. And we finished that game with the Sniper, the Confederate, the High Caliber, the First Class, 1938 base XP, a really nice game again in the EBR 90, and maybe in the future that'll probably be an ace tanker, but not when I was playing this when there were only like 200-300 people at it. Really nice game for the EBR 90. It's a tank I'm not a big fan of. You just got to make the most of its strengths, but it doesn't have too many of those. It's just a little bit underwhelming to me. Is what it is. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!